Well, late last week, the CFL announced there would be a delay to the start of their regular season. Originally, it would be May 23rd for the preseason and then June 10th for the regular season. Joining me today to break this all down is Greg Buchanan from the Real Country 95.9 Tuesday Night Sports Show. Greg, thanks for taking this time.
Thanks for having me, Evan.
Now, Greg, first things first, obviously, like I mentioned, the CFL is delaying that start date to August 5th. I guess just starting things off, in your opinion, what are the chances that we actually see this August 5th as the start date?
It's anybody's guess right now. And I think more than anything, it's just been a kind of a breakdown by the Canadian Football League and a lack of communication through all this. And the players are sitting back and they're hearing the news of the XFL and the CFL, and that's fine and dandy. But the players and the media, they all want to know, when are we going to play? So they set August. Again, there's so many moving parts. You have so many different provinces that come into play. You got American players. The chances of it starting in August, let's hope it will. But more than anything, the 14-game schedule, I'm trying to wrap my head around. I don't know how, with COVID and everything that comes up, and you've seen with the Vancouver Canucks, you've seen what happened in the NFL, there's always going to be something that comes up. So to get 14 games in, I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. I think we're probably looking at an 8-game schedule. Will it start in August? Again, they put this out there in the media, and there's still a lot of questions with not a lot of answers.
Yeah, and Greg,
if I'm a betting guy, I would say I don't know if it will start in August. So
now, Greg, one thing that CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie did say as well, there's sort of two contingencies on the season starting. One of those being the approval from the public health authorities, but as well the second one, and in my opinion, this is the bigger one, is permission from different governments to have a significant amount of fans in a significant amount of venues, with the venues that don't have fans in those stands to be joining them. So unfortunately, it does seem like a little bit of a stretch in my mind. I mean, all of us here are optimistic. We all want to see some football back in Canada. It just seems like it might be a little bit of a stretch. Now, you brought up that 14-game schedule, versus an 18-game schedule that we normally see in the CFL. If all things do go according to plan and they do get all 14 games in, how much of a change will this be for teams, adjusting from that 18 to 14-game schedule, especially when you look at the playoff picture moving forward?
I don't think it's going to be a huge adjustment. I think more than anything, the thing you have to keep in mind, these are teams that have not had revenue for a year. So they have laid off their front office. They have laid off their coaching staffs. And now they have to spend money to bring players in to go to their training camp. And probably some players are going to have to be in the hotel rooms for at least a couple of weeks. Again, we don't know about COVID. So now those rosters are going to be smaller. Like, who's kidding who? They're not going to have the rosters that they had prior to COVID because they can't afford it. And because it's such a gate-driven league, the other thing that comes into play now, if they start and there's no crowds, the players are already being told they have to take a 20% pay cut. Some players will say, I'm not coming. And then the decisions on who's playing is a pretty easy one because you're filling gaps.
Yeah, and Greg, another thing I guess that comes into play for my mind at least, less games means less home games. There's a lot of teams. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, first one that pops into my head. Hamilton's another team that, do phenomenally at home. It interests me to see, if they change in the standings because of this. Just talking about standings as well, obviously the Grey Cup, it's what everybody does play for. This year, it will be later than most years. December 12th is their goal. Now, Greg, do you think, obviously that 3-week difference from what we normally see will play into factor when it comes to actual play on the field?
You know what, for me, I'm a Rider helmet behind me here, so you can kind of see I'm a big CFL guy. But my biggest knock for the CFL for the longest time is, why are we playing games in October and November when the skill set is off the charts on some teams during the summertime? You can't have that skill set when you're dealing with minus 25-degree weather. You're dealing with snow, you're dealing with ice. And now we're going to have it a few weeks later in December. I don't know about you, but there's no way I'm sitting in the stands in Hamilton as my beer turns to slush before the end of the first quarter, because it's going to be minus whatever. And actually that Grey Cup was scheduled to be in Regina. So actually, if they gave the Riders the opportunity to host it this year, you would be in Regina in December, which I don't know if it's a difference between Hamilton and Regina. Just it doesn't matter because it's all going to be slush. But again, the skill set and how you're winning games in September and August is going to be different than way you're going to game plan in November and December, which is a sad thing.
Now, Greg, final note here. Obviously, it has been 2 off seasons of change since we have seen CFL football last. But that means, a lot of teams will be looking different coming into this season. Is there maybe a team or a player that you're looking forward to watching the most?
Well, I think the one team that were so busy during the offseason the last number of weeks here was probably the Toronto Argonauts. And they're such an afterthought in Toronto. It's the Maple Leafs, it's the Raptors, it's the Jays, probably Ryerson Hockey, and then the Argos. So they're way down on the chart. Nobody cares about the Argos in Toronto, and they need to have that fan base care about it. So I like to see the Argos get better, and the CFL is a quarterback-driven league. So as long as you have good quarterback, and you look at the West, you got Bo in Calgary, you got Harris in Edmonton, you got Riley in BC, you got Cody in Regina, and then you got Zach in Winnipeg. So the West is a dogfight, and I kind of see Winnipeg and the Riders battling for first and second, everybody else for third and fourth. And in the East, it's going to be Hamilton, potentially the Argos if they ever get there, together. But the other one is Ottawa's kind of a wild card because they made some changes. They have a new coach, so it'll be kind of interesting there. And we'll see what Montreal has in order. But yeah, it's a Hamilton in the East and Winnipeg Bombers, or Winnipeg and the Riders, and maybe the Stampeders battling for 1, 2, and 3 in the West.
I'm excited to see, like you said, the Saskatchewan Roughriders here. Obviously, they're coming off their first place finish in the West in 2019, the best they had done in a number of years, and obviously a couple seasons off. I'm interested to see if they can continue that success going forward here. Greg, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me. And, it should be exciting. We're all hoping for the best come August 5th.
Yeah, everybody's hoping that you can sit down and enjoy a CFL game.